Hello, 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 beautiful. Hello, gorgeous. Welcome in. I am so excited for today. This is part three of the three-part series that goes with the divine calling, the energetics of entrepreneurship versus employment, which is the class that I shared with you guys that will be launching in May. And this is particularly the part where we talk about career transitions. What is it like to decide one way or the other that you fit into the structure of entrepreneurship or the structure of employment, and deciding that you want to go down one of those paths when you are maybe on the opposite path. So, what is a career transition like? And let's talk about specifically the energetics of it all. So, let's start with a few definitions. What do we mean by career? I am defining career as your calling. So, over the long term, and all of the different pieces of your calling stitched all together. So you could be at a traditional job, uh, that can be your career, like a specific, let's say, a lawyer or an engineer or a doctor. That's a career. You can think about celebrities and all the movies that an artist might have been a part of. That can be considered a career. You can think about a business owner and all of the various business activities that this person has taken part in, or just in general, the path of one particular business that they have been a part of. So it's just a continuous path, and looking at your calling and the activities you have done as a result of fulfilling that calling over the long term, right? So it's the fullness of it. So when we think about the trajectory of your career, it's literally the path that has yet to be set, the path that you have yet to walk of your career. When we think about the past of your career, it's just literally like think about your resume. So there's your resume, and then there's the trajectory of it all. Then we want to think about the idea of transition. What exactly do we mean by transition? Well, it's a move of any kind, a shift to or away from something, whether you're shifting from job to job, from job to business, from business to a job, or even switching your careers. So that's the two definitions that we're talking about when we say career transitions. And the overarching theme of what I want to say today is to always look up. When you're thinking about your career transition, you might be in the trenches at some point in time. You might be going through challenges. You might get a little confused. You might get a little off track. You might get distracted. And the one thing to always keep in mind is to always look up. It's not about where you are right now in this very narrow, specific, focused moment or activity or task. It's about what your calling is. Where are you going? Always look up to your calling when you're getting confused, when you're getting off track, when you're getting distracted, when you're being pulled in multiple directions. Always look up, because the answers are always about where are you headed? What's your calling? And where is that leading you? And that way, the transitions become a lot easier. So, when we talk about the energetics of career transitions, we are essentially talking about, it comes down to the state of two things: the state of your alignment and the state of your ability to flow. And we know that our alignment and our ability to flow can shift day to day, moment to moment. Think about it, decade to decade, year to year, whatever time period you want to look at it from. Your ability to align with your calling and your ability to flow with the direction your calling is taking you to will change over time. So, alignment meaning, is this the right move? It's meaning like you have been pulled towards this direction, or you have decided to go down this direction, which is what we spoke about in the last video, specifically talking about whether or not to quit your 9 to 5. We spoke about that clarity. Essentially, moving forward means that you are either pulled towards a direction or you have decided to go in that direction. And alignment really helps you through any of the challenges you face. When we talk about the ability to flow, what we mean is that when those challenges arise, Are you able to flow like a river and let it take you where it may? Are you able to be flexible and take challenges in stride? That's what we mean by your ability to flow and your ability to align. So, the energetics of this career transition really comes down to, are you able to do either of those things? Because when you meet the tasks that you are doing in the middle of your career transitions with resistance, that is a recipe for having a hard transition. Because resistance is just like a heavy weight pulling you back. It's like shackles to your ankles, just dragging you back while you are trying to move forward. But your calling is trying to move you forward, life is trying to move you forward, but you just keep resisting because the tasks become difficult one way or another. And that resistance is tough, it's hard. So when you allow yourself to flow with what you've already aligned with, that makes things so much better. I like to look at my calling from the perspective of it having a shape, and that shape is not always linear. So while the essence of your calling can be clear, maybe from a very young age, if we think about examples like musical geniuses, if we think about mathematical geniuses, let's say Einstein, for example, scientific geniuses, when you think about these people, the essence of their genius has been very clear, maybe not from the very beginning, but it could be from the beginning. But if you think about the overarching theme of their life, the essence of their calling is super, super clear many times. Especially the more time goes on and you see the thread between everything they have done in their lives, you can see that they have this musical genius, this mathematical genius, or this interpersonal genius, just this ability to really connect to the hearts of other people. The essence of your calling can be very clear. But the path to fulfilling your calling, that's the part that's not always clear. That's the part that we get fuzzy about, right? And this is where the thought of entrepreneurship versus employment, it necessitates adjusting our perspective on these work models because we live in a physical world, right? Your calling is not necessarily physical, but we live within the constraints of the physical world, right? We have a human body, we live in physical homes. And therefore, when we think about other parts of life, like the entrepreneurship space, the employment space, although these are not physical boxes, these are conceptual boxes. If you think about a company, a role, a function, a business model, a social media site, these are the physical constraints that we are living in within the world. And it's these physical structures and these limitations that make transitions burdensome, right? Because they're they inherently create resistance, right? If you think about a physical item like a heavy box, that heavy box, if you try to move it, it's going to there's some resistance inherently there because it's matter and matter has weight to it. um so it's these physical structures and limitations that make the transitions burdensome, and it's not just external structures, like I said, the employment or your job or the role or the company or the business model or the social media site that you're choosing to express yourself on. It's also the internal structures of your own brain. There are limitations, blockers, and headaches that come in. So that's one thing. Your calling is not going to have a shape. I mean, your calling, I like to view it from the perspective of having a shape. The essence is clear, but the path is not clear. And that is expected. That is something for us to really navigate through. And when we both align and have the ability to flow, then that becomes so much easier. The other thought is that your calling can have different flavors at different points of your life as your consciousness evolves and you're able to view your calling from different lenses. This is something that changed the way I view my life and my career in general because it really showed me that I, as a person, am growing. You, as a person, are growing. Everyone around us, we're always growing. And therefore, the decisions that we made 10 years ago and the decisions we made now are not the same. We had different decision making thought processes then as than we do now, because your level of consciousness in the past might not be where you are now. So the decisions you made then, you won't make them now. So I love to view my career from that perspective. Like, how has my consciousness evolved? I made a video some time ago about why I decided to work for every company I have worked for. First, it was about the brand name, and I wanted to be excited about the brand. Then it became about my calling, where it's like, I want to work for a company that has a similar path towards my calling. But then I evolved even further where it's like, I don't just want the company, their mission to align with my calling. I want the essence of the company culture to align with the essence of how I am fulfilling my calling. So it no longer became about having the same calling. It became about how are we as two entities in this world navigate spaces, the physical spaces that we exist within. How are we navigating that space to fulfill callings that might be different but have similar essences? So that is the evolution of my own consciousness. And that's how I've made career transitions and career decisions from that perspective. I think about one of my coaches, for example, Gio. Some of you might know her. If you talk to me personally, you know I talk a lot about her. I love her. She focuses a lot on the heart. And that resonates so deeply with me. Gio, for example, has evolved out of this achievement at all costs mindset into doing what God wants her to do, essentially fulfilling her calling. And that's the kind of evolution that uh, makes it so that our calling has different flavors at different points of our lives. And many of you probably learned about me through my beautiful friend, mentor, big sister, Mina. And I think about her, for example, as well, where she went from struggling in some sort of way in her life to doing so much deep inner work that she's a pure embodiment of inner work, and that's what what she teaches nowadays, right? Like that's how, the message that she is spreading to the world. So the transition, if you think about your career at large and you think about transitions in your consciousness and the shape of your career, those transitions are the inflection points in the arc of your calling, right? So that's where I mentioned your calling has a shape, right? Because the transitions give your calling shape. If you just go from being born to fulfilling your calling, that's a linear line. And we all know it doesn't work that way. Well, for some people, it might. Like they, from the moment they were 2 years old, they started doing a particular thing, and that's what they've been doing forever. I think about Selena Gomez, for example. She has been acting, dancing, singing since she was on Barney many years ago. And look at her now. She's still acting, dancing, singing, plus extra things like makeup, mental health awareness, etc. So her career has a shape. And even though it did look linear because she started at that point in time when she was very young, in either case, she's still gone through tons of transitions in her consciousness, which allowed her to make different decisions in how she lives out her career, like the makeup line that she created. Her consciousness evolved to really focus on and care about mental health. And that's why now her career is focused on how do we spread messages around mental health and allowing people to see the beauty of in who they are without worrying about what other people think. So that's the inflection, right? Those transitions are the inflection points in the arc of your calling. And these are the factors at play. So, how do you reconcile the challenges that come up when you have a transition? Because these, like the rough edges of the shape of your calling sometimes can be difficult. You might prick yourself on the corner of this transition, this inflection point. Sometimes the transition can be curved and rounded, so it doesn't feel as hard, as difficult. Sometimes you can barely see that there has been a transition in your career and the shape of your calling because it may be rounded, but it could be flat round. You know what I mean? So the shape can look different from transition to transition. How do you reconcile the challenges that come with more prickly changes, with more hardcore? um, hardcore changes and transitions in your career. One is get aligned with your calling. What is your calling? If you have a clear calling, then those challenges are still challenging, but now you have more strength within you. You have more energy to pull from within you. You have a meaning behind those challenges. And when you have a meaning behind your challenges, they become so much lighter to carry because that meaning is bringing you and pushing you forward. It's creating and generating this energetic momentum that is going to help you thrust you forward past all the challenges because you have a higher calling. That calling is bringing you one step closer to fulfillment, to the fulfilling of it, when you are able to view your calling very clearly past every challenge that comes up as you transition. And it gets even stronger when you have conviction on your calling, right? Some of us might have clues about what our calling is. You've gotten clues when you were in grade school, you got clues in high school, in college, you got clues when you started working or when you started your business. All of the puzzle pieces started to come unravel, right? Like you started to uncover and discover puzzle pieces, all of which give you a clearer and clearer and clearer vision and picture of what your calling is. And so that might be those moments where you don't have a clear idea or you don't have a ton of conviction on your calling. But when you get that conviction on your calling, better believe, you better believe that the challenges that come up are things that you will be able to tackle. They are things that you will be able to flow through because the conviction on your calling is that this is what God is calling me towards. And therefore, any challenge that comes up is just a part of the journey to fulfilling that calling. It's a preparation. Every challenge is a preparation for the next step of fulfilling my calling. Every challenge that comes up is God strengthening me. It's God placing some resistance, like when you're at the gym and you need to, I don't know, bench press. What do people do at the gym? I'm not a huge gym goer myself. So that's God presenting resistance so that you can build the muscle that is necessary for the next step of your calling. And the conviction that you have is what helps you push past that resistance because the conviction is energizing you. So, when I think about conviction, what exactly is it? We spoke about clarity, but then it's the other piece of trust that sometimes becomes really difficult because when you have been given this clear vision of what your calling is, where you're headed next in life, that is all great. But what happens in the challenges if you are not able to trust your calling, or you're not able to trust yourself to fulfill it, or you're not able to trust God and that He is going to help you through every challenge that comes up? Trust is a very important part of any career transition because of those challenges, because of what we spoke about earlier, those edges that could be a little rough, right? Those edges, they can hurt if you bump against them, like when you stub your toe on a on a coffee table or something. So, having the trust that God has got you is what allows you to rest into the challenges. It's what allows you to soften into the challenges. I think about trees, and I'll never forget this. In one biology, I don't know what class, it was some science class in high school or college. They spoke about trees and how trees are able to move with the wind. And the beauty of that is that there's flexibility there. So the wind is not able to snap it, right? Because if it's just standing still and a wind strong enough comes by and snaps the tree, it's broken, right? But if the wind has the ability to flex and move with the wind, then there's strength there. And that's what trust is about. Trust is having that flexibility. Trust is moving with the challenges. So if the challenge tries to bring you this way, you're flowing with it, like in a river. And Clarity plus trust is that conviction that you need to break through any challenge, to surrender to the challenges that come up, because the clarity is your eyes on the prize, but the trust is your ability to move with whatever comes through, whatever comes about. So know that challenges might arise. Challenges are going to come up as you're going through career transitions. I have gone through many career transitions in my life so far. I feel like I've got to all the industries I've ever wanted to go into, like real estate, marketing, software engineering, and now I'm moving into this more spiritual space that has been a part of me since forever. But, I haven't been as confident in my ability to really tell other people about this. So I am personally really excited about this. So when you're going through any transition of any sort, emotions are going to come up, and you might want to name those emotions. You might want to journal on those emotions. You want to journal on the feelings that are coming up. What feelings are being evoked inside of you as you're going through this transition? What feelings does this transition bring up in you? What are the fears that are coming up with this transition? Are you afraid of failure? Are you afraid of success? Those are two different flavors, right? Of a similar thing. It's a fear of the outcome being one way or the other. So, what fears are coming up for you? What desires do you have with this particular transition? What do you want it to look like when you're on the other side of it? And then, once you're able to process those feelings, those fears, and the desires, you can then formulate next steps with confidence, because you've already taken into account the parts of you that are feeling things in the present moment. You've already taken into account the parts of you that are fearful, like those, lower brain functions of our brains from our evolution as human beings. Those fears that are popping up telling you that you might not survive this, you've already processed those. And once you process the desire, which is telling you where you want to go next, then the next steps just kind of present themselves to you. And that's what I personally like to call inspired action. Those nuggets of inspiration that comes up and you follow them to the next steps. And another thing with these career transitions is I personally love to be supported by mentors, coaches, community, God. So that's what I'm proposing to you as well. When you are going through a career transition, you want support. You want to be a supported woman that is taking all of the support that is offered to you. If that means being in community with other people who are going through similar transitions as you, then community is your go to. That could be your family, that could be your friends, that could be strangers on the internet. Or if you have mentors, coaches, they can be the people who guide you step by step and help you work through limiting beliefs. They can be the people who help you work through coming up with and crafting those next steps. If you have a faith in God and a higher power of sorts, whether that's the universe, God, your higher self, then you want to enlist support from those higher powers in order to guide you through these transitions, guide you through the challenges that come up. So just know we are all in this together. And the more support that I personally have, just like pretty sure it's similarly for you, the more support we have, the easier any transition becomes. So in the end, when challenges arise, always look up, always look back up to your calling. And when the going gets tough, know that everything is going to work out for you because life is working things out on the back end. You might not be able to see how things are coming together beautifully for you, but they are. So you have your calling, you have the physical structures that you are operating under, and that is all you know. But you don't see how things are coming together beautifully on the back end. I went to this conference about 2 weekends ago now, the Young Catholic Professionals Conference that I mentioned in the previous two videos. And one of the speakers mentioned this tapestry story. So, tapestry on the front end, everything looks beautiful, right? But then if you flip it around, you see all of the threads, you see all of the strings, the ribbons, all of it looks messy. So we get to see the messiness, right? We see the challenge. We see those inflection points that we spoke about, the shape of your calling. We see all of the rough edges. But what we don't see is how things are looking on the front end, how beautiful things are coming together. And when we are 3 years into it, 4 years into it, 5 years, 6 years, 10 years, and we see the results of everything we've done on the back end, once we finally see it on the front end, it's gorgeous, and we can now see why we had to go through everything we had to go through to make it so beautiful. So trust that it is all coming together. I am personally so excited for the divine calling, the energetics of entrepreneurship versus employment. The masterclass, as we mentioned, is going to be fully actionable so that you can walk away from it having very clear next steps of what you are going to do. And we'll start with a workshop, or like our beautiful Mina loves to call it, we'll play shop. And we'll go through that together to really understand how do we weave our calling together with these physical structures of entrepreneurship or employment. So we are going to start there and understanding what work model do we fit under, because we could be burning ourselves out trying to start a business when we want more defined structures, which a job can provide, or the opposite. We could be burning ourselves out being restricted by a job when we just want to free flow and create within the structures that we defined in our own business. So we will start there by workshopping that, the calling to the work model to your own personal essence. Then we'll do some embodiment practice so that we get a real sense of the energetics of it all, so that we really get a sense of what's the energy of entrepreneurship and how do we embody that? What is the essence of and the energetics of employment, and what embodiment practices can help us really deepen into that? And we're going to come away from this masterclass with a clear set of actions. I personally love masculine containers. So I'm going to be sharing some ideas around masculine containers that you can create in order to organize not only your calling, but the transitions themselves. So you get lifetime access. So if we need to have multiple sessions, multiple add-ons in order for everyone to come away with this with exactly what they need, then we'll do that. If our consciousness evolves over time and we need to add on to the masterclass in order to have our next step forward, then we will do that. I, like I mentioned, love creating masculine structures to my feminine divine calling. So, for the VIP clients, I will be helping you create masculine structures around your next move, around your next transition, so that you have it very clearly laid out, the feminine portion of it, which allows you to really flow with the essence of where you're going to fulfill your calling, and the masculine structures that allow you to really move through this with structure, with containment, and that ladder of sorts, which will move you forward. So you don't want to miss this. We are going to move through emotions that come up for you during the transitions because they can be tough. So let's do it together in community. And I'm so excited to jump into it. So if you have any questions, any thoughts, let me know. Hello, Rosa. Thank you so much for saying that about the video. I really enjoy this. It makes me really happy to chat about this. As you all might know, I love talking about careers from a heart centered perspective, from the perspective of spirituality, femininity, so that we can really live out our careers in a way that feels aligned with where we are headed in life, with that divine calling that we've been imprinted with. Dontrell says, I am 21 at work right now watching this. So are you saying what can I take from the experience of 9 to 5 to then carry into my entrepreneurship journey? You can absolutely do that. So one of the beautiful things about a 9 to 5 when you want to eventually transition into entrepreneurship is that they are essentially investing in you to learn and grow your skills. That's how I viewed my 9 to 5s. They are investing in me to learn and grow my skills. And this was true. So I studied marketing in college. And that's what I graduated from college with, marketing management degree. And I moved into the marketing space when I graduated. So I was an associate product marketing manager. And even then, I would say they were investing in me growing the skill set that I started off creating in college. And then when I transitioned into the software engineering world, oh, they definitely were investing in me growing that skill set because I didn't study software engineering in college. I did a coding boot camp. Then I did an apprenticeship, which is essentially a program crafted for you to learn. So they were definitely investing in me creating these skill sets. And now at my job, I'm still learning and growing, but more in the sense of building leadership skills within that engineering space. So you can absolutely view your 9 to 5 as a way to gather skills in a very safe container because that's what a job is, right? You have you get promoted, right? And what does that mean? That promotion means that you are learning and growing as you have spent time at this 9 to 5. So you don't have to, don't make that, you don't have to make that your goal to get promoted. But I'm just using it as an example of the mindset that goes into a 9 to 5 job. The fact that people even get promoted, it means that there's learning and growth that is happening because the more you learn, the more you grow, the more you're able to give to their business, right? The more you're able to bring revenue into that company, the more you're able to service people that come to you. And all of those skills that you are learning are going to be transferable from job to job, as we know. That's why we build a resume. And when we're in interviews, we talk about stories from our previous jobs, but those skills are also transferable to your own business. So there are some people who have been at a job for many, many, many years, and they tell themselves, well, hey, if I'm being paid by my job to do this task, then I can be paid as my own company to do that for other small businesses, right? And that's where they start building a portfolio of projects and a business around the skill set that they were being employed by their 9 to 5 employer. So, Dontrell, I love that question. You can absolutely view your 9 to 5 as an experience that you can carry over into your entrepreneurship journey if you feel that that's the right path for you. So, a lot of what I'm trying to express in this video and in this 3 part series that I've shared with you guys is that you can fit in either of these categories of the 9 to 5 employment model. You can fit into the entrepreneurship employment or entrepreneurship work model, but it's more about self-awareness. Where do you fit at this point in time? If right now a 9 to 5 is what feels right for you, it's what feels like it's aligned with allowing you to create and live out your divine calling, then the 9 to 5 is the right place for you to be right now. But on the other hand, if you are at a point in your life where you feel like the 9 to 5 is just going to restrict you and it's just not for you and entrepreneurship is for you, then you can absolutely fulfill your divine calling through your entrepreneurship journey. So that is the ultimate goal of what I'm sharing here, where it's like, what is your divine calling? And use that in order to determine if you should be an employee or if you should be an employer, meaning you have your own business. So that is the crux of a lot of this. So thank you all so much. If there aren't any more questions, I'm looking at the chat right now. If there aren't any other questions or thoughts, then we are going to end it here. Thank you guys so much. And I can't wait to see you in the masterclass, The Divine Calling, the energetics of entrepreneurship versus employment. I can't wait to deep dive. So I will chat with you guys later. Mwah. Love you all.